Anyway, he goes on in verse 2 of chapter 4, I beseech Euodias and beseech Syntyche that they be of the same mind. In this case, there's disunity. And it's quite clear that these two brothers, and they were brothers in the Lord, but there was some disagreement between them, and Paul is pleading that they would get together and see unity. And you know, one of the things that troubles me most about the church today is the disunity. Terrible disunity. As I struggle to visit a number of countries to attempt to call national days of prayer, which means the calling together all the denominations, I find it is one of the hardest things I've ever attempted to do, to bring brethren who preach the same gospel and believe the same Bible and are saved with the same salvation, to bring them together in unity, even in prayer. So you can see even Paul senses this. And then he goes on in verse 3, I entreat also true yoke fellow, help those women which labored with me. And in this part, he's talking very much about a personal experience, because he needed so much support, and women helped him in the gospel with Clement and with my fellow laborers, whose names are in the book of life. Wow. What other reward? He doesn't talk about financial reward, how much you're going to pay me, what about this? Their reward was simply that through their labor, their names are written in the book of life. We lose sight of this. And as a result, he says, rejoice in the Lord always. Rejoice. Let your moderation be known to all men, because the Lord is coming. Be careful for nothing. Oh, this is important. Be careful for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. Do you know, there's something very deep that's underlying here, which I'm sensing, and in the Spirit, what I sense here is that Paul is saying that we as laborers together in the gospel should not be concerned about material issues, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. After all, it is God who supplies. And we should not always look to men, but we should trust God. And then verse 7 is fulfilled. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your hearts and minds. You know, when we're trusting God, it is an implicit trust that brings peace. You know, I could give many more recent illustrations of this, but a man a couple of 100 years ago, a very famous Christian, who set up a series of orphanages for the children, the homeless and the orphans. And he lived by faith. He had no real means of supporting the children. And I can remember one day that he called the children for their meal, and there was nothing, no food, nothing, absolutely nothing. And at that time, they didn't look for the bars of chocolate and the other things that one would look for today. They hadn't got the basic elements of food, nothing. The cupboard was bare. And all he simply did was he called the staff and the children to prayer. And the amazing thing is, by the time they finished praying, someone had come to the door and delivered everything that they wanted, the food. And it's just a simple thing that sometimes we put too much attention on men to supply our needs, whereas here, Paul says, if you want peace, a peace which passes understanding, which will keep your hearts and your minds, then let your requests be made known to God. It's interesting. And then it moves on to verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue or if there's any praise in these things, think on this. And you know, I've heard it said before, and I think it's worth repeating, simply, that there are times when we should sit down and count our blessings. There used to be an old song, you know. I don't like the modern songs, I do like the old ones. There was one which we used to sing so often, count your blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. And it is true, and when I look back over my life, and I've had a great deal of difficulty, yet when I look back and count my blessings outnumber my distresses. And it's such a reminder of what the Lord has done in my life.